Jeffrey wants to develop good habits. He knows the benefits of meditation, gratitude journaling, lifting weights and eating clean, but he never takes action. His morning routine consists of him waking up late and just scrolling through social media. Adonis has the best habits imaginable. He manages his time perfectly. Meditation, deep work, lifting weights, going on runs, gratitude journaling are all part of his lifestyle. He doesn't need a sweaty guy in a bathrobe to tell him what to do. He just does it. The book Atomic Habits by James Clear is seen as like the definitive guide for building the self-improvement habits that will change your life. If you think back to most of the movies that you've watched, a lot of them place this big emphasis on some kind of event that changed the star's life. So if you imagine any movie like Spider-Man, it's like some event happens, he gets bit by the spider, and suddenly overnight his life changes. And we fantasize about that because we would love to have such a fast transformation. But in the real world, that's honestly not what happens. It's almost never one event that changes your life forever. Now, fair enough, there is events that could change your life, but the thing is, waiting for one of those is what normal people do. They don't do anything, to prepare themselves for the event. They just wait for it. They're waiting for the one time that they win the lottery, and they don't even play the lottery that often anyway. The average person overlooks the importance of habits. And the main reason why is just because habits take quite a long time to actually change your life. If you start the habit of lifting weights for the goal of bodybuilding, you want to build like a body that's really athletic and strong and muscular and you want to look good. Well, if you go to the gym today and you go train for an hour, and then you go train again 2 days from now, and then you go train again a couple of days from then, and you really put in some effort for this, and you have the perfect diet, and you even improve your sleep and everything, well, you're not going to see any difference. Because for you to actually see some gains, to get some real results, it takes months. And most people are just so impatient that they don't wait for that. And so the issue is that then they never really stick to the habits that would have gotten them what they wanted in the long term. If you want to become successful or aesthetic, build like a really sexy, muscular body, or you want to improve your social skills, or you want to date a girl, honestly, most of the things that you want will actually come from habits. And it's so important that you have this empowering belief inside of you, that you actually truly convince yourself that, yep, all I need to do is set the right habits, do them for a long time, and I'll be where I want to be. The author of the book that we're covering today, his name is James Clear, and he said in this book that habits are like the compound interest of self-improvement. You dedicate yourself to this habit and you really make it like an important part of your day. And if you just stick to it for the long term, these habits, these micro things that you do in your day, which are 5 minutes, 10 minutes, they start paying dividends. You actually get such a huge return on investment from it. Because if you see today, right here, right now, and you compare a guy who's pretty muscular, he's not on steroids or anything, but he just went to the gym for the last 8 years, like I have, right? If you compare my physique to, no offense, but to some like high school friends, or like some people I was really close with 10 years ago, and we see how just physically how we look today, and you can say this is shallow, but this is just an example. There's a very big difference in just literally the shape of our bodies. And how did we get here? There was no grand event for me. There was no moment that I took steroids and suddenly I got massive. It was just a small habit of just training for like half an hour to an hour, a couple times a week for the first few years, and now training like 4 or 5 times a week. It was always habits. It was always these seemingly unimportant things that led to this moment now, where you can see such a big difference between me and people that I started next to. It all came down to habits, and now the habit of working out and eating clean is paying me even more interest because I'm just totally used to the process. And this is most likely going to be a part of my identity, my personality, my habits for the rest of my life. It started as a simple habit of just going to the gym and just eating protein, and suddenly it's changed the rest of the trajectory of my life. And on the other hand, this is even more true for the bad habits that you do. So for the good habits that we want to develop, we'll go into exactly how to make them like easy enough that we can really get into them. But this book is especially useful for when you're trying to overcome some bad habits like watching porn and fapping, taking drugs like smoking weed, eating junk food, or wasting time on social media. And so James Clear gives this explanation of this 4-step pattern that probably occurs when you're just about to indulge in another bad habit. And the 4-step pattern is cue, craving, response, and reward. If you can understand this 4-step pattern, it will really help you to take a big step back from the bad habits that you just keep finding yourself going back to. So you probably have the goal right now to like watch less YouTube, to play less video games, to not fap as much, and you just somehow you almost end up back there. You're like, what the fuck? Like I had the goal not to do this again. How did I just relapse again for like the 3rd time this week? And it's because of this pattern. So a bad habit always starts with a cue. A cue is kind of like this feeling that we get inside of us of something somewhat negative that we want to ease. So for example, the cue that you might go through just before you're about to relapse to porn and masturbation. You're just watching YouTube, and then some dickhead YouTuber puts like a picture of like a sexy girl, like really provocative picture picture, and suddenly that's the cue of like, oh shit, like, you know, fapping comes back into your mind. And straight away, like, you've already started the process, and chances are you're probably gonna end up relapsing again because the cue hit you. It starts with the cue, the trigger, and then it leads to craving. So craving is like when you start to desire the subtle feeling of intimacy that comes from watching porn. I think that's a really good phrase. Watching porn gives you like a subtle feeling of intimacy, doesn't it? It's really fucked, isn't it, bro? Once you have this craving, this desire for the bad habits, you move on to the next part, which is the response. So you go, for example, you log onto the porn website, or you start smoking weed or whatever, you do the action. Then the response, the action, leads to the reward. And the reward is like the thing that the bad habit gets you. For porn and masturbation, the reward is that, you know, the orgasm, the sense of release that comes from that. From eating junk food, the reward is the taste on your lips. And the author stops here with this 4-step pattern. But I think that there's one more step after this, and that is the consequence. Because you get the reward of the bad habit, but then you're left with the consequence, which is that psychological hatred for yourself in your mind, where you've yet again done the bad habit. Cue, craving, response, reward, consequence. Now we understand that a bad habit starts from the cue, the trigger. And so you can start to think, okay, what actually triggers you to go on to fat? Does it often happen because of some kind of media that you indulge in? So for example, for me, I literally got into NoFap around 80 years ago. I was 17 years old. I'm 25 right now. I had been masturbating literally multiple times a day. You know, it was starting to like really fuck me up. But I remember the exact day where I really took it seriously, when I fapped 3 times in the morning, and on the 3rd time, my dick didn't even get hard. Literally, it was like still soft when I nut. Like I remember literally looking down at my little limpy dick and just thinking like, that is fucked, bro. Holy fuck. So I took NoFap seriously after that. But guess what happened? 2 days in, I'd relapse. Okay, I'm gonna get to day 90 this time. 2 days later, I'd relapse. Come on, day 90, and then I'll get all the bit. Relapse. Guess what the cue, the trigger was for my relapses? It's so obvious. Every single morning, I would grab my phone and I'd open up the Reddit app and I'd go onto, you know, like the main page, and I'd just keep scrolling till eventually I just start to literally just see porn on there. You know, some highly upvoted post of like some actually like porn, like GIF, like some little clip. And so I'd start fapping straight after that. That was the trigger. But once I became aware of this, I just took a big step back and I was like, okay, bro, fuck Reddit, bro. It's such a stupid platform. So I deleted it from my phone, never went on it again. Literally, I've not used it properly since that moment. And then suddenly I didn't have that initial cue and trigger. Now, of course, there was other ones. You know, I'd still sometimes feel lonely or horny, and I'd end up fapping again. But it's significantly improved after I got rid of one major trigger. So right here, right now, whatever the bad habit is that's in your mind, whether it's eating junk food or taking drugs or whatever it is, just ask yourself, what is the main trigger that seems to cause it? Eliminate that trigger. And so on the other hand, if we want to then start to get consistent in a good habit, this book gives us a 4-step plan of action that we can follow, and will be so much more likely to commit and stay consistent with the habit that we actually want to do for the long term. The action plan is to make the habit obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Making a habit obvious seems a little bit silly, like, okay, why do you need to make it obvious? I've realized that this is actually overpowered, and it's so simple. Like, for example, I always struggled to drink water. Like, honestly, when I was in high school, my dad would literally punish me because I would drink no water all day. I remember there's this one time when he picked me up from school, he driving me home, and he literally said, okay, open up your bag and show me your water bottle. And bro, I started shitting myself. Like, he was quite aggressive with this, but like, I've taken the water bottle out, it's pretty much full. And he started getting like angry and stuff, like, why would you've drank no water all day? It's been like 8 hours. And I don't know why, okay, like literally I was just some weird kid who didn't like drinking water. You know, I like drinking like orange juice or some shit. And you know, I started making excuses like, oh, you know, it's not that warm outside, so I don't really need to. And I didn't realize why I wasn't drinking water till eventually I figured it out. And now, by the way, like, I'm a big fucking water drinker, bro. I'm like a water enthusiast. I drink like a fucking water buffalo. I'm not gonna lie. I probably drink like 8 liters a day. Like I just like fucking compulsively drink them. I have 2 of these bottles because I drink too much. Each one's a liter. I've already drank a liter in 20 minutes. How awesome is that, right? So, and I'm very fucking hydrated. It fills up your muscles and everything. But I struggled for a while to drink more water. But guess the easy thing that I did to just actually become a water drinker? I made it obvious. I just always keep my water bottles with me. I've got 2 water bottles. And I remember the one specific thing I did was that when I'd be working on my computer, I would literally just put the bottle on my desk. Like, I'd put it on my desk right there. So, you know, I'm working on the computer here. And what I found is that whilst, you know, focusing on the task, I'd just grab it and start drinking it without even consciously thinking of it, because it was obvious. It was right in my face. Another habit that I've wanted to build just recently is stretching. And the way that I've made that obvious is I literally just have my yoga mat out in the living room. So literally just yesterday, I didn't schedule, you know, stretching time. But I literally just go through the kitchen, I'm doing something, I just see my yoga mat, and I literally just ended up like sitting down and just doing like 5 minutes of stretching, just because it was obvious. It was right in my face. So really take some time right now. If you want this video to help you, just ask yourself, what is first of all the good habit that you want to get into? And then ask yourself, what is one thing that you could just do to make it so much more obvious? And try and start implementing that right now. So for example, if you want to write a book, you know, on your computer, and you'll have the document where you're writing, just open that document up, and the next time you put your computer on sleep or whatever, have that document as like the main page that opens up. If you want to learn more about self-improvement and, you know, improving yourself as a young man, and you want to watch more of these videos, you can literally just bookmark our channel and maybe even just make that your homepage. Every time you open up your browser, there's like a self-improvement video that's good for you right there, and that's so much better than spending time on like TikTok or watching like Mr. Beast videos. How can you make the habit that you want to get into more obvious? Now, the second thing that we can do is to make it more attractive. I think that making something more attractive simply just means increasing the rewards that we would get from it. And so I've done this extremely well, but it's controversial the way that I do it, but I'm going to teach you. The way that I've made all of the good habits more attractive is that I've related every good productive thing that I do to increasing my chances of attracting women and having more sex. Now, someone else might call us cringe or weird for this, but the thing is, this really works. If you want to get into the gym and build some muscle, keep in mind that you will become more attractive and that you'll get more matches on Tinder, more likes on Instagram. You end up dating and having more sex with better women, and also just more women if that's what your goal is. And the thing is that you don't even need to indulge in this. You don't need to be a degenerate with this. You can literally just keep that in mind to make that habit more attractive, and then still have your morals and, you know, choose, okay, if you just want to wait till marriage, that's absolutely fine. But just relating everything you do to increasing the amount of women who want to have sex with you, it's deeply motivating. I did this with weightlifting. So when I was 17 years old, I had literally done no good habits for my entire life. I never had studied, I never read books, I never even exercised or anything. But one day when my brother told me about weightlifting and he got me into the gym with him, I realized that if I built a good, sexy, muscular body, it would help me to get more girls. And so suddenly I was hooked onto weightlifting, and it became like this one like huge burning passion of my life. With the habit that you really want to get consistent in, figure out a way that you can increase the rewards of it by just convincing yourself that doing that habit will get you something else. The third way to get more consistent in a good habit is to make it easy. And this is an easy one to follow. Just think of the thing that you're trying to get into. And if you are struggling to get consistent in this habit, like for example, you keep missing the workouts that you said you were going to do, or you wanted to get into the habit of being more productive, you just aren't seeming to sit down more. But what you can do is lower the barrier to success by making it easier. So for example, if you're really struggling with going to the gym and you've always struggled with that, stop thinking of doing a full workout, because clearly that's too much. Start thinking, okay, well, I'm not consistent in going anyway, so I'm not going to lose anything if I try this. And how about you go to the gym and literally go train for 10 minutes? Like literally just go on to one exercise and fully just fucking kill yourself on it, like bench press, or say for exercise, like chest press machine. Do 2 sets and absolutely go till failure, even to the point that you can't push it anymore, and just fight it there for a few more seconds, drop the weight, do one more set, 10-minute workout, and leave after that. Now you might be thinking, wait, but you're not going to make gains from a 10-minute workout. Now, yeah, probably not. But right now, if you're not consistent in the habit that you're trying to get into, you weren't going to make gains anyway. So if you can make it easy and drop the barrier to success, well then you'll be more likely to do it. And eventually, of course, you know, you'll progressively overload, you'll start liking the habit, and you'll start making more progress. So I did this with stretching. I remember I started to stretch literally about a year ago, and I would never be consistent because I thought that the way to stretch was literally like I'd go onto YouTube and I'd follow some stretching routine that was like 20 minutes. They put you through like 15, 20, 30, 40 different movements, and it's just annoying switching around, and you know, you never get a good stretch because they move on to the next fucking movement, and it's just annoying. There's a couple of weird ones and everything. And so that just annoyed me. Like I just was never consistent. I'd do it once for maybe 15 minutes, you know, I'd close the app early, and then I wouldn't do it again for like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, just because I hated stretching. I hated doing these long ass routines. And then I thought, okay, how can I make stretching easier? And I had this brilliant idea. I thought, okay, I'm not going to watch these cringe YouTubers who are showing these stretch routines anymore. I'm just going to buy a yoga mat, and every single day for about 2 minutes, I'm just going to go sit on the yoga mat and just randomly pick a stretch and just stretch one movement, literally just one movement. Sometimes I do 2 movements, and that's it. I don't follow this fucking routine where there's like, you're doing like all these weird ones or some shit. I don't do that. I literally just do 2 different movements, and I hold them for like a minute each, 2 minutes each, and that was it. And then I leave after that, and that was like stretching done for the day. The same with meditating. When I first ever started meditating, I could not even do it for 3 minutes. That was the lowest amount of time on the app. I'd do about 1 minute and I'd just get frustrated and just bored, and so I'd stop. And I got kind of annoyed with that, like, oh, you know, I can't even do 3 minutes of meditation, it doesn't even count. So eventually I just thought, you know what, 1 minute's still progress. So I made it easier. I made the barrier to success easier, and then I got consistent with meditating 1 minute every single day. 1 minute turns into 2, turns into 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, and boom, suddenly you're just meditating for 20 minutes a day. And finally, the fourth way to get more consistent in the habit that you want to really level up in your life is to just make it more satisfying. I think this is quite similar to the previous points, because an easier habit is generally going to be more satisfying. But there's 2 ways that I did this. One, I made things somewhat easier. So for example, with the stretching routine, I stopped doing like these weird awkward stretches that was just annoying to do and everything, you know, that they were unsatisfying. And I started doing literally just the stretch that actually felt kind of nice and not like annoying. Like, you know, there's some where you have to balance like on one leg and stuff, and I hate that shit. Whereas there was some stretches that actually felt good, and I was like, okay, fuck it, well, I'll just do 1 or or two of those per day. And so that's made stretching more of like a satisfying habit for me. Like I actually enjoy it now because one, I don't do it for that long, but two, the movements that I do, they actually feel nice. But the second way you can make something more satisfying is psychologically. You can actually hype yourself up for that habit. And also when you've done that habit, you can make yourself feel more pleasant about it by saying like nice things in your brain. So every time I stretch, I'm like, yes, that's awesome. I just stretched again. I'm gonna get like more flexible and I'm gonna get more range of motion when I go to the gym. Like this is so great. That makes the habit that you've just done more pleasant. So for example, when I go to the gym and I have a nice workout, I say nice things in my brain about that workout. So I leave the gym with a smile on my face and suddenly I can't wait to come back again. If you wanted the secret to my success and everything I've built, this was it. It was just developing some good habits and staying consistent with them for years and years and years. It's never felt like I've done something extremely hard because all I've done is just something that's somewhat difficult every single day for a couple of years straight. And you can see the success that these habits have built. You can literally see how many subscribers, like go have a look how many subscribers we've got. Guess how much money we make. It's all come from habits. When I tell you right now that the difference between an athlete and a fat guy is just habits. Think about that. The difference between an athlete and a fat guy is just habits. Now you're thinking like, oh fuck yeah, fair enough. Like I need to get into these habits. The book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, really good book. I'll have it linked along with every other self-help book that I think you should get. I'll have those linked as like affiliate links in the description of this video. Click and watch this video right now. Do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. Mwah.